Hi, and welcome to a little mini lesson on polynomials. Polynomials. It's a fun word, but try to say it many times and see what happens. Okay, we're going to take a look at page 178, number 10, and simply simplifying the directions are quite clear and simple. Look at that, 3 words, multiply and simplify. 3-word directions, you can't go wrong there. Now, look at this. I picked this problem because it's a little interesting. There's some things going on here that you don't necessarily typically see in some of the other problems. That's why I picked it. But basically, it's going to be just like all the other problems. You have 5 terms. You have an x, now remember, you have a positive x. Keep that in mind. It's a positive x. You have a positive 2. You have a negative 2x squared. There's a negative x, and there's a negative 3. And we're going to take this positive x and multiply it by everything on the right. By every term on the right. We're going to multiply it by the negative x squared. We're going to then multiply it by the negative x. And we're going to then multiply it by the negative 3. Okay? And then after we do that, we're going to take this positive 2 and multiply it by the negative 2x squared. We're going to take the positive 2 and multiply it by the negative x. And we're going to take the positive 2 and multiply it by the negative 3. Now you see these lines that I draw here? I've been multiplying polynomials for probably 25 years, for longer than you have been alive. And you know what? I still use these lines. I'm not just using them now because I'm showing you how to do this. I use these myself. So if it's worked for me for 25 years, my word, it can work for you too. Use the lines. They're really helpful. So now we're going to take a positive x, right? A positive x. And we're going to multiply it by the negative 2x squared. Don't mind my sloppy parentheses there. Now we're going to take that same positive x, and remember, so all these terms are going to be separated by an addition or subtraction sign, and we're going to work on that later on. We're going to positive x times negative x, right? And then we're going to take that same positive x and multiply it by the negative 3. So let's kind of break that down. Positive x times negative 2x squared. Well, that's just going to be negative 2x cubed. Positive x times a negative x is negative x squared, because a positive times a negative is a negative. So, and then a positive x times a negative 3 is negative 3x. Bam, we've got that much done. Now we're going to take the positive 2 and play with that a little bit. Say positive 2 times negative 2x squared. Positive 2 times negative x and positive 2 times negative 3. I apologize for my sloppy writing. Positive 2 times a negative 2x squared is a negative 4x squared. A positive 2 times a negative x is negative 2x. And of course, a positive 2 times a negative 3 is negative 6. Now we use a commutative property to rearrange things and get them get like terms together or next to each other. There's no other like term with an x cubed, but we have a negative x squared and we have a negative 4x squared, so we'll get those next to each other. We have a negative 3x and we have a negative 2x. Those terms are similar. We'll put those together. Now we can combine negative 2x cubed. Well, we can combine the negative x squared and the negative 4x squared and get a negative 5x squared. We combine the negative 3x and the negative 2x and get a negative 5x and a minus 6. Voila, we can't simplify it any further. That is the end of that problem. Let's take a look at this problem. Again, CJ's lines. Just follow the lines, make them. There we go. Boom, there are the lines there. We have the square root of negative 3. Now this is the square root of negative 3. The square root does not go over the x. It's totally separate beast. And the same over here. This term is the square root of 3 times x. It's not the square root of it's not the square root of 3x. Okay, just need to be aware of that. Now this term is a negative 2y. You need to pay attention to that. Whenever you have negatives, you just need to pay attention to them. So we're going to say positive square root of 3x, right, times the positive square root of 3x. Okay, and then we're going to go the positive square root of 3 times x times y. That's these two here. Now we're going to go negative 2y times the square root of 3 times x, and then negative 2 times y times y. Now we can use the commutative property of multiplication, and we could say the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 times x times x. Now since everything's positive, we know it's going to be a positive sign. Well, the x times x is easy. That's just x squared. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, well, that is just equal to 3. Let's take a look at that, because we could say the square root of 3 times 3, right? And that's the square root of 9. Square root of 9 is 3. That's how you can get there the quick and easy way. Then we have plus the square root of 3 times x times y. We can't do anything with that. That is the way it is. We cannot change it. Then we have the next one is negative 2 times the square root of 3 times x times y. Look at that. That is what it is. Let me, can I do it? I can't do it. Oh, I can do an eraser. I'll get rid of these. There, we don't need that parentheses there. And that's what it is. And then we have negative 2y squared, because y times y is y squared. So now we have 3x squared. We can't combine that with anything. But look at this here. We have a factor of square root of 3 times x times y. This term has a factor of square root of 3 times x times y. We can combine them. And remember, there's understood to be a 1 here, so we have a positive 1 and a negative 2. So that's going to give us a negative 1, or negative square root of 3 times x times y, all minus 2y squared. Okay, that's how you solve this problem here. There's a lot going on in this problem, so if you need to, please press rewind. Hope you found this helpful.